All right, folks. It is definitely time to think of what day it is. It is Thursday, April 17th, and we're actually going to play a national pension ad, and I'll put some light on the situation, and we'll be back with the news.
One of the things that business owners forget a lot is to prepare for their own retirement.
Hi, my name's Nick Palavita, and today I'm with a very special guest, a certified financial planner, a chartered retirement plan specialist, and president of National Pension Partners, Max Culiet. Max, tell me what you do at National Pension Partners.
Well, Nick, we help successful small businesses and professionals put together retirement plans that provide them the maximum retirement benefits and big tax deductions at the same time.
Well, how do you do this?
Well, we get on an internet conferencing system with the client. We review their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then put together strategies to help them in implementing a retirement plan that benefits them, not everybody else.
Well, that sounds really good, but how much does this cost?
Well, it's really not bad because the first consultation is free. That allows us to go through and discover whether this strategy works for that business and for you as the business owner and helping you maximize your retirement.
Well, Max, how do we get this free appointment?
It's really pretty simple, Nick. You can either go to our website below or call us at 877-252-1692, and then we can set up a time with either myself, Nick, or one of our other retirement plan specialists, another CPA or advisor in the office, to go over this with you and make sure it fits for you.
Hi, my name is Lewis Haupt. I work with National Pension Partners, and I work with businesses to allow them to put the maximum away that they can for themselves and to save taxes.
Hi, I'm Brad Coyle, and I'm the brokerage manager at National Pension Partners. We're always analyzing plan fund choices in order to ensure the participant's success.
If you want more information on how we can help you and your business put more money away in a retirement plan than you ever thought possible, contact us at the website below or call us at 877-252.
Now we're back with the news, and all along those lines, we'll see if some of our regular panelists join us and what's going on in the world. But the Trump administration is threatening Harvard with a foreign student ban. So that is one thing that we're hearing in the news. And the wife of a man mistakenly deported to El Salvador filed for protective order against him in 2021, documents are showing. And there is also notice and some things coming out of the Trump administration about this whole notion of him actually being connected to the MS-13 gang and all along those lines. So it definitely sounds like that is going on, and we'll see if anything comes of that, if they have proof, or if there is room for a slander suit or other things along those lines. But it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space. And Europe watches warily as Melania meets with Trump. So that took place yesterday and all along those lines. And the Pentagon is working to make Trump's vision of a U.S. Iron Dome a reality. So that's something else that we're hearing about in the news and around the news. So definitely something that folks will be paying attention to. And Menendez resentencing delay, talked about LA DA as Newsom gets parole board report. So we'll see how this goes as well. And Maryland Senator Van Hollen meets with El Salvador's vice president in a push for Abrego Garcia's release. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about, just like Reuters is talking about Trump opposed a planned Israeli strike on Iranian nuclear sites, according to a report coming out of the New York Times. And NHS will be pursued if gender policies don't change, Equalities Watchdog says, and that's being reported by the BBC. So definitely a lot's going on in that space as well. So like I said, a lot's taking place in the world and around the world and all in that kind of way. So we definitely are glad here at Pod TV to be keeping you abreast of a lot of these different things that are taking place and seeing how they can impact you or just impact the world in general. So that is something that is being reported on a regular basis. So definitely keeping you abreast of these things and also seeing what other folks have to say as well. I know that later on today, we'll be doing a recording of the program that has to deal with Ukraine and Russia, but we'll air it at its regular time on Friday, as Friday is Good Friday, and all along those lines. So, like I said, a lot's going on in the world and trying to give you some of the things that are taking place in the world and keeping you abreast of these many different news items that are taking place. And we're always glad to do that here on World Edition and definitely here on Pod TV. The Trump administration is threatening Harvard with some actions and all along those lines. So that is something else coming out as well. So it is threatening Harvard with a foreign student ban. So Trump's freeze on $2.2 billion to Harvard provided no proof of wrongdoing, according to the Washington Post. So U.S. IRS is said to be considering whether to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. So definitely it looks like Kristi Noem is threatening Harvard's ability to enroll international students. And the wife, like I said earlier, of the mistakenly deported Maryland man responds to release of the protective order when there was some domestic violence accusations going on as well. But she is still adamantly supporting her husband and trying to get him back to this country. And the Menendez brothers, currently serving life in prison, are set to be resentenced this week. So the Menendez brothers are expected in court for resentencing hearing after challenge from DA Nathan Hochman. So that is something else that folks are paying attention to as well. And fishing tournament boats collision in Alabama leaves 3 dead. So 3 died in a boat crash at a major league fishing event. So that is something that folks are looking at as well. And like I said, Giorgia Melania to try to act as a bridge between the EU and the U.S. with the Trump meeting. So Italy's Melania is heading to the White House for the Trump meeting amid EU trade tensions, and she'll be seeing if she can act as a bridge in these conversations and all along those lines. And Texas is posed to create a $1 billion private school voucher program. So definitely that's something that was passed by the Texas House as they passed their education savings account program. So it looks like they have approved private school voucher program in an early morning vote. So it must have been one of those votes at like the midnight hour or something like that. And Governor's Mansion arson suspect was angry about the Gaza war, according to what Pennsylvania police reported yesterday, and all along those lines. And Chuck Schumer is calling on Bondi to investigate the attack on Shabaro's resident as possible anti-Semitic hate crime. So definitely that is something that folks are talking about as well. And it looks like Howard Lutnick is among the 100 most influential people of 2025. And he made a comment on Forbes like a pig in S, and I'm not even sure what that is. I can imagine, and everything like that. The Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick revels in the trade war. So even Politico is saying that the Cabinet Secretary Trump, the world loves to hate, isn't going anywhere. So it looks like he'll be around for a while. And El Salvador denies senator visit with mistakenly deported man. And that's something else that folks are paying attention to, as Senator Chris Van Hollen was unable to secure a meeting with the deported immigrant in El Salvador, even though he went down there to try to have a meeting with that particular gentleman. And China wants countries to unite against Trump, but is met with wariness. So the U.S. exports a lot of stuff from China, and there's even a breakdown of it. I'm sure if you go into your own house, you'll probably find various items from China and all along those lines. And some people are saying the Trump administration likely acted in contempt of court by not turning around deportation case and all along those lines, in the sense of the case with Garcia and all in that way. So that's something that we're hearing, as well as Republican lawmakers face fresh backlash to Trump at home. So Chuck Grassley held a tense town hall as Iowans pressed him on Medicaid and Trump and the tariffs. So it looks like he was grilled at an Iowa town hall over shameful Trump policies. And RFK Jr. called autism preventable. He said it was preventable and drawing ire from researchers. And I actually saw that he had drawn some ire from Holly Pete as well, the actress, the well-known actress, because apparently her son is autistic. And I saw that on social media where she was quite upset at some of the remarks that had been made by him in that particular remark, and said that it is a disorder and not a disease, and that there needs to be some differentiation between that. And the Japan and the U.S. begin tariff talks on good terms, but without breakthrough. So we're having some conversations. Apparently the U.S. is with Japan and we'll see how that all plays out as well. And NHS will be pursued if gender policies don't change, the Equalities Watchdog said in that whole area of the UK. So new rules for public bodies expected by summer after the UK gender rule and all along those lines. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that as well. So a lot's going on in that space, and a lot of people are paying attention to it and seeing where it's going on in that kind of way. So it'll be interesting to see what folks' reactions are as Europeans and Ukrainians to make their case as Rubio and Witkoff visit Paris. So it looks like there's still some folks that are trying to get these negotiations going in between Ukraine and Russia as well. An Israeli defense minister says troops will remain in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria indefinitely. So that's something else that we're hearing about. And if you want something a little on the lighter side, a colossal squid was caught on camera for the first time in the deep sea and has been filmed in that area. And so, like I said, there's a lot going on in the world. I'll see who's here with me and what they've got to say about a number of things. I see I've got Toby with me, and I've also got Nick with me, and I hope Nick comes on camera because I've got a question for Nick that is legally in it and all along those lines. I saw that the White House put out some information where they are trying to paint Mr. Rodrigo Garcia as a member of the notorious Latin gang, and they're also bringing out notions of his domestic disputes in the past with his wife, who had been one of his major advocates and everything along those lines. And I know you're talking about some legal troubles that Trump had and all in that space, but that sounds like it could be grounds for slander. So do they have a good slander case, and could that get Trump in even further legal hot water? Because it seems to me that I was reading that, and a lot of people on social media were asking that question, whether there was grounds for a major slander or defamation of character case. But you're the lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I've got lawyer friends. What is your take on this notion if they are releasing these reports about, like, I think one was an encounter at Home Depot where they were saying he had the Chicago Cubs outfit and that is a gang symbol and all along those lines. But I just wanted your take. Do they have a case for defamation and slander?
I don't know if they have a case for defamation and slander, but that's a big loser for the Trump administration, this whole case that I've been following, Mark. But here's the reasons why. If this person is a U.S. citizen, he is entitled to the privilege and immunities of U.S. citizens. He's entitled to due process of U.S. citizens. And all the stuff you're discussing belongs in a court of law. It doesn't belong in an immigration dispute. So that's a loser. Now the only question is, and I saw, what's her name, the crazy lady who's the press secretary, saying, "Oh, I'll never come back to the United States." Yes, he will. Watch. The way Trump's going, the real question I'm having is whether or not he's going to be president of the United States in 2 years or less, because he's acting like a crazy man. There's absolutely no way you can deport a U.S. citizen without a fair trial and hearing. And he can make all the allegations he wants. He's a murderer. He attacked his wife. It's irrelevant. It belongs in a court of law. It does not belong in an immigration process. So this is a big loser. Now here becomes a real problem. This is what we're going to see. Who's supposed to enforce the law? If the U.S. Supreme Court says X, it's up to the Department of Justice to enforce the law. What happens if your boss, a.k.a. Donald Trump, says, no, we're not going to enforce it? Very interesting situation that we haven't seen since Andrew Jackson time, when they took the Native Americans off their property, moved them to Oklahoma. The Supreme Court ruled that was illegal, and Andrew Jackson said, stick it. You're the Supreme Court. You made your decision, now enforce it. I'll never forget that, because I've used that quite often in practice. You made your decision, now enforce it. So this is going to be the real key thing. Now, the real way to enforce it is for these guys, Congress, to actually step up, grow a pair, and, do what they're supposed to do, which is legislate, in other words, and find some leadership. But let's say they don't. Now what happens? In other words, they don't decide to impeach Trump, because really you're going to step across the Rubicon if you're defying a court order. Remember high crimes and misdemeanors, and years ago on this, they said, oh, Trump's being impeached. I said, no, they didn't really commit a high crime and misdemeanor. But wait, if you're actively going against the Supreme Court of the United States decision, you've crossed the Rubicon, my friend. And even though Caesar was successful the first time, long term, it ain't happening. So we're going to see whether or not he's Henry VIII or he's Napoleon. We don't know yet. History is yet to be written. He can be a very charismatic, crazy leader like Henry VIII, or he could find a Waterloo like Napoleon. But I'm telling you that right now he's on thin ice with the Justice Department in this whole matter. So
very much
all you Trump fans, hey, look, you could there's a line you're not supposed to cross. You cross these lines, and you're going to pay for it. So we'll see what happens, Mark. But he's not in my
lines being crossed, and I know Toby may want to jump in this as well. But the other big part of the news, and there were several big parts of the news going on, was this notion of what's going on with Harvard, because the Trump administration is threatening Harvard with foreign student ban. We had this whole conversation yesterday, and Trump has got a freeze on $2.2 billion to Harvard, even though they provided no proof of wrongdoings. And the IRS is said to be reconsidering whether Harvard can even be tax exempt, and Noam is threatening Harvard's ability to enroll international students, which is a major part of their student body and everything along those lines. So what is our take on this notion of what's going on in the war against higher ed?
The good thing is Harvard isn't going to back down. Harvard has a $50 billion endowment. They will fight this. It's obviously garbage. I would guess that 20% of Harvard students are Jewish, a similar percentage of faculty. It's not an anti-Semitic place. I mean, historically it has been. It used to be like Jews were the Asians of the, say, 1920s. That Harvard was anti-Semitic in admissions 100 years ago, because if they hadn't been, maybe a third of their student body would have been Jewish, which they didn't like at the time. But that was 100 frickin' years ago, and now there's nothing anti-Semitic about Harvard.
Well, yeah, I don't say that's really an issue with what's going on in that. But again, why are we creating problems when there are no problems? This is ridiculous. We have a lot of real serious problems to solve, and we discussed them on Economics Monday, from the Social Security issue, Medicare issue, to the national debt. Okay, now why create problems when you haven't solved the real problems? It's just beyond my imagination. We have a housing problem in the United States. We're not addressing that. We have Congress, which is showing themselves to be a real problem. They complained under the Biden administration that was a do-nothing Congress. Well, they're continuing. Like I said, I'm about to call every one of these senators. What are you guys doing up on the Hill? You're not doing anything. Is it Donald Trump doing everything, and you guys don't have a vote or say? You're not stepping forward and creating any form of leadership. Why do we pay their salaries? Got 535 people on the Hill that are doing nothing. And then you got Donald Trump, at least he's doing something. Half the stuff he's doing crazy, half the stuff he's doing not crazy. But the thing is, these people aren't doing anything. It's like dead silence. And I just don't get it. Well, I live in Spain now, so
you live in Spain now, but
I thought I got away from all this trash. But let me tell you something: your tariffs go international. So and how? Why would you want to PO 160 countries off? I don't get it, including our friends in Canada. Now, I can understand POing Sasha off every now and then, especially on chess games. But in terms of tariffs, are you going to get? We have a big case coming up. Remember, we told you it's going to be on Lawyers Den next Tuesday at 6:00, and it deals with actually a case versus Donald Trump on the International Court of Trade, that he doesn't have the right to do all the stuff he's doing in tariffs. It's actually the right of Congress to do tariffs. Now, since these lawyers filed this suit, another group of lawyers have filed a similar suit, but not in the U.S. International Trade Court, but in the First Federal District Court in California. So Governor Newsom has actually filed a copycat suit for the same theory. And I've reviewed it, and it looks notorious that the issue of tariffs is actually a congressional issue. It's a legislative function. It is not an executive branch function. Now, I believe, as we're sitting here, this case will reach the Supreme Court of the United States. This is going to be one of the biggest decisions the Supreme Court have made year to date. Does the executive branch have the right under this International Emergency Act to have the president change tariffs? In other words, create tariffs and get rid of tariffs. Remember, that's a legislative function. I believe Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett will say, no, he doesn't. And he's going to lose a big one. This will be the biggest loss he's ever had, at least in Congress. He's had bigger losers. They're called.
Yeah, definitely there's a lot of losers in that space.
It's a great case, man. I read it. It's a great case.
Yeah, and I got another question for Rick and everything. But I was wondering, Rick, are you going to be moving to Texas? I know you don't have any school kids at the moment, but apparently they created a $1 billion private school voucher program, which is a whole lot of money, I guess, to encourage people in Texas to go to private school as opposed to public school. So are you going to be rushing over to a state not that far from you to get this?
Get to Sasha, but I've lived in New Mexico, which is basically West Texas, and
Right.
The schools they don't have a lot of money there, but you do get excellent teachers, because if you're getting paid $2,000 a month to teach, which New Mexico teachers were back in the 80s, which even back then was crap money, you got a bunch of bad teachers. And you got a bunch of saintly teachers who were great, who were doing a good job because of the love of teaching and not because they were getting paid decent money. Anyway, go to Sasha.
Nick, a question to you. Does Supreme Court have an army to enforce its decision?
Yeah, well, see, that's going to be the constitutional crisis of the century. In other words, the Supreme Court makes a decision now. Who enforces it? It's actually up to the Justice Department to enforce it. Who do they respond to? They respond to the president. But do they? Because most of the people in the Justice Department are attorneys like myself, and our allegiance is actually to the courts, not to whoever we're working for. It's our Bar Association courts. So we're going to find this to be very interesting, because these attorneys may find their licenses suspended or held in contempt, or revoked even, or disbarred if they don't toe the line and do what the Supreme Court says. But this is going to be great theater. Wait
a second. Isn't it true that President appoints actually Department of Justice, the head of Department of Justice?
Yeah. But the thing is, the attorney's oath is to the United States, and also their responsibility is to the bar first, not to whoever appoints them for any political position.
Nick,
so Trump would have to continually firing them to the point where there are no attorneys would step up and work. They couldn't, because you cannot go against a Supreme Court decision. I'm sorry.
In case of disagreement, I can imagine easily enough that Trump will just hit in face the head of the Department of Justice, and thanks to immunity provided by Supreme Court, there will be even no recourse on that action. So I just don't believe that Supreme Court, Department of Justice, the Senate and Congress, all of them put together, have any remedies to deal with Trump. I think Trump is today a Tsar of the United States, and he can do anything what he wants with 100% immunity and just get back to reality, okay? Stop even.
Well, he definitely has a lot of power.
Yes, but I think you're going to see a constitutional showdown between the United States Supreme Court and an army of lawyers if he POs these lawyers. Remember, he's already made a swipe at the legal profession. 2, perhaps 3 major law firms, Jenner and Block, Covington and Burling, and also the firm out in the Pacific Northwest. The lawyers do not like to be told what to do by any executive, by any stretch of the imagination. Perkins Coie was the third one. So you create enough enemies, you end up in this place called Waterloo. Have you ever heard of that, Sasha? Waterloo? Okay. Waterloo, how'd that work for Napoleon? Did he do well?
It didn't work out too well for Napoleon. But speaking of things that don't work out well and everything like that, I hate Sharice not here, because apparently China's Xi just came back from Malaysia, where he was giving them a jet and chips deal before heading to Cambodia. So he arrived in Malaysia with a message, which was that China's a better partner than Trump. So he's saying that China and Malaysia say important to maintain peace and stability in South China Sea. So what is our take on this notion of China quoting their Asian brothers there in Malaysia and Cambodia, and I guess trying to make sure that they know that they can get some good goods, whether it's chips or jets, if they are coming on their side? So what is our notion in this lovely trade war?
Well, can you blame him? I mean, the thing is, he's going to take some territory out of this, because the thing is, the United States is showing, hey, we're not a great trading partner. And so, yeah, he's going to make some inroads in some of the other countries, especially if these tariffs continue the way they are. But like I'm saying, he's got a real problem with these tariffs. These tariffs may all go down the toilet in the next maybe month. In other words, its life expectancy maybe 30 days. I also told everybody here, remember when he started this, I said there are two things he's going to play with, because he found toys. It's like a little kid with toys. One, executive orders. Boy, he issued more executive orders than any president ever in the first 100 days. Number two, tariffs. I told you that. He's going to play with the tariffs, because he found this is a toy that he can play with, get a lot of attention, and no one can do anything about it. But that becomes a definite maybe under the legal standard. And this toy may be taken away from him. Oh, yeah, he's going to cry like a baby. Oh, I lost my tariffs. How could I? The suit I reviewed is meritorious. I mean, it's a tough one. I want to see how the Justice Department's going to defend it. It's going to be very interesting, how they're going to defend it. But even more interesting isn't even that. It's how the Supreme Court's going to rule. I believe that the court in California is going to rule that on a motion for summary judgment that it is all his tariffs are illegal. Okay, the Court of International Trade, I'm not that familiar with, so I don't know how they're going to rule. Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because when they rule for or against, it'll be appealed to the Supreme Court of the United States. After it goes to the Ninth Circuit, the Ninth Circuit will affirm, and they'll end up in the Supreme Court. It'll be
we'll make it to the Supreme Court, and we'll find out what happens in that point and everything. Come back to the global world, and I've got a couple of questions on the global community I want to ask you about, but one we don't oftentimes talk about, and apparently today is the 200th anniversary of the independence of Haiti and everything, and even The Conversation, which is a publication, said 200 years ago, France extorted Haiti in one of history's greatest heists, and apparently the Haitians want reparations. So what is our thoughts around that? Is France going to pay the Haitians the reparations for this conquering that they did some 200 years ago? And definitely, what is our thoughts around this notion of colonial powers having to pay?
The answer is no, but yes, they did screw Haiti pretty bad. It's absolutely hilarious. What they did is they smacked Haiti with reparations because they were freed slaves. And because they got their freedom, they owed a lot of money to France. Can you believe that one? And so they put Haiti in poverty.
Even if France voted to give reparations to Haiti, I'm not sure you could give it to Haiti right now, because maybe somebody knows better than I do. But right now they have a failed government, just chaos.
Well, they don't have a government. It's just a bunch of thugs. There's a bunch of thugs.
You can't. So any reparations you would have to hold until you have a competent government in there. Otherwise, the money would just disappear into gangsters.
I agree. First, France ain't going to do it. So the things that's a non-starter. Number two, if they did do it, you're just sending it to a bunch of drug lords. So, it's kind of a waste of time. Really, Haiti's a failed state. It's been a failed state. And it's a good question. What can you do, or can you do anything about it?
Well, speaking of failed states, there's a European country as well, and apparently they've implemented some very tight anti-LGBTQ plus laws and everything. So they passed a constitutional amendment to ban those events from that community, and it's seen as a major blow to the rights of those people in that community in that particular country. So what is our take on this notion? Because apparently they've even got the EU court ready to suspend Hungary's pride ban and everything like that. But it looks like they are going on. They even had a cultural war in Hungary by mandating that there are only two genders. So it's either male or female. There's nothing in between, and something along those lines. But what is our notion of countries anywhere in the world trying to implement their moral codes on folks?
Well, is it moral, or it's a legal code? You know, the thing is, and certainly, I just saw I think it was the United Kingdom Supreme Court says they're men, they're women, you know, at birth. And none of this BS that's been thrown out there for the last, I don't know how many years, you know. Now, the sad part is, and Dr. Patton has said correctly, you do run into a very small group that is very questionable. Okay, in other words, the thing is it A or is it B? I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with that particular group, but it's an infinitesimally small group, but it does exist.
It's, I don't know, a little bit under like 0.5% of people are appreciably intersex. They've got,
yeah, right. That's the problem.
In fact,
there's a minorities.
Hold on, come on.
Rick is a subject matter expert on sex.
There's a famous Hollywood actor who's had rumors of being intersex for her entire career. And, you know, she has led an exemplary, celebrated life, you know, as the gender that she's chosen. But it's a thing for people.
Are we talking about Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner?
No, my wife's yelling at me. Don't say her name. Don't say her name. But
don't say her name and everything like that. Hey, Jacoby, I got a quick question for you as well. And I hate that Shaquille's not here, but apparently a major model star, which I did not realize, has moved to Shaquille's country, and apparently she's put her whole family there and everything like that. So I know that there was this whole notion of people like Nick moving to other countries, but apparently Tyra Banks now lives and is happily living in Australia. So what is our thoughts around people that are deciding that they want to get the heck out of Dodge in the United States and that they're going to go to another country? Because I saw that when I was stumbling through my YouTubes and TikToks and stuff like that.
We talked about this a lot. It's not super easy. You can go to another country. Most countries have a 6 months on, 6 months off kind of policy where you can go to England for 6 months, but then you have to leave, go back to your country of origin for 6 months. It's down to 3 months, my wife was saying?
No, in the EU.
Oh, the EU is 3 months.
EU has the Schengen Treaty or whatever the heck it is. But see, what we did is we actually got residency status. To get residency status is a lot more complicated. It's not like, well, hi, I'm from America. No, it doesn't work that way. You actually have to go through a lot of hoops. You have to apply for residency status. Then you get these weird cards, TIE cards, NIE cards. It takes months. Not only that, you have to have everything apostilled. That doesn't even exist in the United States. But basically, you do have people that do apostilled documents from your birth certificate to your marriage certificate to your firstborn child to everything. And so they do a complete review just to get residency. It's not like the United States, which you allow illegal immigrants just to cross over the border and say, hi, I'm American. It doesn't work here in Spain, doesn't work in Europe. It actually takes time. You go through a process, and then you're granted residency status for 3 years.
But it doesn't matter if you're an American; they can disenfranchise you and ship you out now.
Well, that's a loser. That's a loser case. We're going to follow that case.
You know what? But by the time they figure it out, you're already deported and dead, Nick. Figure that one out.
But speaking of people being deported and dead and all along those lines,
You're deported and dead by the time anyone does anything for you.
No, hold on a second,
They are
Kim.
nabbing people now just for the fun of it or the thrill of it. They are taking lawyers.
Yep, they are doing that. But I did have a question for you. I had a question for Nick in that same regard, because I stopped by one of my favorite sandwich shops and everything yesterday, and the family that is a major part of the staff there is from Honduras, and the young Honduran was reminding his cousin about this particular card that used to exist, and I'm not sure what it was, but apparently it was a card that they were giving people that would allow them to go to their home country with the possibility of coming back if they accepted the card. So it was like they were giving something to it was like an app just to self-deport themselves. And I remember us talking about that. Is that app still out there? And is that like
Trump has been saying that the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, is saying that Trump has just been quoted as saying, if you agree to go home on your own, we'll pay for your plane ticket and we'll even give you a little money. But Trump,
what's wrong? Where are they going to go?
Finish my frickin' sentence. Trump talks out of his ass. He said, if you do that, then we'll try to get you back in. So that part of it sounds like bullshit. But there has been that policy, I guess, in the past, and they're going to try to do something like that now.
Well, where are they to go? Most of them don't have a home somewhere else. They don't have deposit or money.
It'll be chaotic because Trump is not good at coming up with coherent policy.
But would it be an app? Because that's
He's
the way
not good with a business plan. He's good at shooting from the hip and missing, but he's not good with a business plan.
He's definitely not good with the business plan.
He's used to being able to file bankruptcy or have his reality TV show fix everything the next day.
For the past 100 years, the U.S. has had a bunch of programs that go both ways. There was the Bracero program under Eisenhower, where agricultural workers from Mexico could come over and work here. And then people under Eisenhower freaked out and they did Operation Wetback, which kicked out agricultural workers. And then at the same time, they were still letting them back in. So they had simultaneous contradictory immigration programs. Let them in, kick them out. It was, even under Eisenhower, it was chaos.
It was total chaos and everything along those lines. Hey, I know we're going to have a recording later on, but what's going on, Sasha, in what's taking place in Ukraine? Because I know that there was this whole notion of this leader of the EU trying to broker a deal, and I guess the European and Ukrainians are going to make their case as Rubio and Witkoff visit Paris and everything like that. So what exactly is taking place, and is this lady that is Melania, I believe is her name, going to be able to make some kind of inroads into this whole war between Ukraine and Russia? It's been going on now for, I think, over 3 years.
Actually, it's all very simple. The fate of Ukraine will be decided on the front lines. And Ukraine now has a superiority in its weapons. It's developing weapons that the West doesn't have, such as laser beams. They can now hit the targets on 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers. UK best laser beams are only 500 meters to a kilometer. Then the drones, Ukraine is miles ahead of everybody else. The sea drones, they are holding Russian fleet. Imagine a situation. Ukraine doesn't have any war ships, any fleet, but they have these drones, and they destroyed already 1/3 of Russian war force. I'm talking about the Black Sea fleet of Russia. So the Russia is in desperate situation. If this clown Vitkov and all this idiocy wouldn't be played around, Putin would agree to peace long time ago, because he has no choice. He can only lose this war. And Ukraine is taking very smart approach. They're saying, okay, they've been hit by air attacks, killing 34 people, including several children, and maiming well over 100 people. And yet they do have means to retaliate big time, including hitting Moscow and St. Petersburg and so on. But they are taking a line, okay, let's give Trump another couple of days, okay, another few hours. Let's get this idiot to the situation where he said, okay, that's enough. Okay, I give up. Okay, there are sanctions against Russia. There are all weapons for Ukraine to hit Russia even harder, or so on. So let him just get there. It's a very slow process, because Trump is not known for his intelligence or his superior brains. But even Trump will have to realize, although very slowly, but still, it's impossible to deal with Mr. Putin. So forget about peace with Ukraine. Talk to Putin about some exploration of Arctic and so on. Both countries have zero money to do that. Neither of them can do it. They have no money. US dollar is under tremendous pressure. There are no takers of its treasuries. Now the Federal Reserve is preparing to buy $9 trillion worth of treasuries this year. It will kill United States financially, and I don't know what they're wasting their time to discuss with another bankrupt country like Russia. All these idiotic absolute projects, which even if they would implement it, it will take 30 to 40 years to get anywhere there. For 30, 40 years, you have to just invest to explore Arctic natural resources. It's lunacy.
So I'm looking at a map of Ukraine, and it looks like along the whole front that Russia is nibbling away further into Ukrainian territory. Is that just going to continue with little chunks of Ukraine continuing to be taken, or?
Well, in 6 months, they've got just one little village by the name of Avdiivka. In 6 months, every day there are 1,500 to 2,000 Russian soldiers are being killed, maimed, liquidated. And by the way, Ukraine is following, and they're taking out all people. They have all the names and how to find them who were participating in the latest attack on Sumy, where 34 people were killed and over 100 were injured. They are now taking out Mossad style, like what Mossad did after 1972 massacre in Munich. Now Ukraine is going to punish everyone from the top to the bottom who were involved in this horrible attack on Sumy, and there is no defense against it. Everyone will be liquidated. So Russia, welcome to hell.
Hey, Sasha, along those same lines and everything, and coming back to another topic that you talk about quite often on the Ukraine-Russia show, but it looks like President Trump is going all in on this notion of an Iron Dome and everything, because that was one of the things I mentioned earlier, and I know that Jonathan Lockwood is a big advocate of that. But what is our notion and our thoughts around our country having this big Iron Dome defense on this massive land that we call the United States of America? So what is our thoughts? Is it realistic? And if it's realistic, how can it be done? But I did report that he's going all in on this notion of building it.
Where he's going to take money to build it, my question. He couldn't build even a wall on the border with Mexico. So where is he going to take the trillions of dollars to build this Iron or Golden Dome or any other dome? Where he's going to get the money? He's going to ask Musk to finance it. Musk has not enough money to finance it. So where is the money? $37 trillion worth of debt, 9 of which will have to be refinanced this year. Where is the money?
That is a good question. Where is the money and everything?
I think Rick knows.
No, I want to go back to Ukraine for a second, because 700,000 Russian soldiers killed and wounded so far in the war. So, and my question, hold on, is Russia going to run out of soldiers? Because if you look, Russia suffered the most war dead in World War II, where they had nearly 9 million military dead and 15 million wounded. So that's a whole different situation since Russia was invaded. But will Russia run out of soldiers, or can it keep losing 1,500, 2,000 men a day?
Russia is getting desperate. They're now bringing in North Koreans, some Chinese. There are some Iranians who are willing for money to fight. Interestingly, that Belarus has invited 150,000 Pakistani people with very unclear purpose, whether to just as a gastarbeiters or that they will fight, and among them there will be a lot of people from Afghanistan, from Africa, or so on, because sometimes it's very difficult to distinguish people who is from Pakistan, who is from Afghanistan, because it's the same nation of Pashtuns, and although they probably have, in theory, different citizenship, but they don't care about citizenship. They believe only in one thing, Allah Akbar, and they will fight whoever will pay them money. This is insane. Russia is definitely running out of soldiers. There are no volunteers to fight. They're all going to fight for Russia only for being paid a lot of money. And I'm very suspicious that those who are paid a lot of money, if they will, first of all, there is a great difference between promising a lot of money and actually paying a lot of money. Many times they promising money, people arrive and they say, okay, you have to fight for 6 months and we will keep your money. And once you're done 6 months, we will give you all the money. First of all, it's very difficult to believe that anybody will survive 6 months of a fight in Ukraine, because it's getting even more horrible than Battle of Stalingrad during Second World War. So the chances to survive, it's very, very minimal. Now, even if you survive, who told you that you will get the money? You have to fight, you were wounded after 4 months. So you fought it 4 months. Now you are wounded. You lost your leg, arm, or whatever. So you're saying, okay, where is my money? Oh, you fought it for 4 months. We agreed that you have to fight for 6 months. Out. You just go and do whatever you want to do.
I saw one more thing. I'm reading an article on the Russian economy. Inflation in Russia is at 10%.
Oh, wow.
It's official. It's much more than that.
Yes, absolutely worse than that. Speaking of inflation, I did want to get to one other topic that is of importance, and I definitely want to hear both Kim and Nick and anybody else that's thoughts around this. But apparently, because we do have the show, the medicine show with Dr. Patmos and all along those lines, and RFK is going around saying some very crazy things about what autism is. And like I said, Holly Robinson Peete did not take kindly to it, and if you go to TikTok, you'll see her response to it and all along those lines. But as she said, it is more of a disorder than a disease. But he was talking a lot of stuff that the science community is not pleased with him because it is not based on scientific facts. So Kim and Nick, what is y'all's take on what RFK is saying about autism and the cures around autism and all of those lines? So RFK is out saying some interesting things around that particular ailment.
Real quick, I don't think he is qualified to say anything in the medical field. He is not a doctor. He did not go to college to become a doctor. I didn't even know if he finished college with anything other than a drug addict degree. So if you believe anything he says, then you deserve what you end up with, and that is fatalities. And according to his family, it is because of him that friends and families died, because they followed him into the drug addict world. So as far as what RFK has to say, I don't believe a word he says. It's muddle crap, nothing.
I just looked it up. So what Kennedy said, he was talking about kids with profound autism, with the language delays, developmental delays. And I looked up the percentage of autistic kids who have profound autism, and it's under 27%. So when Kennedy talks about kids, he's 1 kid in 4 has profound autism. 3 out of 4 are more like me, where if the diagnosis had existed when I was a kid, I would have gotten the diagnosis, but nobody knew about it in Colorado in the 1960s. So yeah, Kennedy does a disservice to the whole autistic community by mischaracterizing, like you guys have been saying, his head is up his ass a lot.
Jacoby, you haven't spoken and everything, so I don't know any of these things. So Jacoby, what's on your mind around this notion or any of the other conversations?
I guess since the other ones have passed, and I did have some stuff for those, but we'll just stay on this one. Autism is not a disease. When we call it that, it's offensive to individuals who have autism. Reason being, you're saying that it's something that is curable and this and that and the other thing. That's what RFK is saying. It's not that. A birth defect is not a disease. It is not something that these individuals, it's their life. So everything RFK says is false. Everything, he'll take a grain of truth. Oh, this paper is white, but now he'll go down some road of, hey, this paper will cure cancer. No, you jackass. No, it doesn't. So RFK is a trash man who should never be in that position. He has no medical background, and people who want to jump on his side because, oh, well, he says some great things about food. Everybody says the same exact thing about food. So he knows nothing more than I do in the medical field. So maybe I should be the head of the department, DHS.
That's Toby, actually, I think you'd be more qualified because you actually have family members in the medical profession. I don't even know if he has that. So you actually have some access to the medical profession.
But
what is your thoughts on RFK?
He has no background whatsoever in the medical field. His background is actually, he's an environmental lawyer, graduate of the University of Virginia and Pace University for his LLM. So he's an environmental attorney, but it's like saying, hey, let's get an architect and make him head of the head surgeon in the U.S. He's
heart surgery.
Make him a neurosurgeon. This guy has no background whatsoever. He's totally miscast. I mean, this is worse than the Snow White casting. Crazy Snow White casting I argue with Jacoby all about. You got the wrong lady in the place. Well, this is even worse. RFK has no business at all being in head of health and human research, human services. If he wants to do a service to the United States, he can do a great service to the United States. He can resign his position.
I just noticed something. I said that under 27% of kids with autism have profound autism. That statistic wasn't even known until the CDC did research and announced it in 2023. And I can guarantee under Kennedy and the rest of the Doge mofos, that research has been shut down. So this preliminary statistic, which would be helpful to the autism community in knowing, more about the demographics of autism, I can guarantee that work has been shut down.
Yeah, so he's kind of a waste of time to listen to. If you want to listen to good information related to medical, you can go to the Harvard Medical Newsletter, the Mayo Clinic. They put on some good stuff. Go to the Mayo Clinic website. Go to the Johns Hopkins website. Go to the Cleveland Clinic website for your medical if you want to listen to medical information. Here's where you don't go to. An environmental lawyer who went to the University of Virginia. Forget it. Waste of time. Don't go there. Oh, he's the head of
Dr. Patmos, our medical guy, says go to a site called Up to Date.
Up to Date, yeah. It's funny. I told my doctor about that, and he was like shocked. How'd you know about this?
It's what doctors who know what they're doing go to see the very latest in developments in their field.
Yeah, it's like artificial intelligence, Up to Date, which isn't artificial, it's actually human for the most part. But things like Up to Date and AI and medical is good to go to. To go to a human who has no medical background, who works for this organization, do not do that. Like I said, go to Up to Date. You can get on as a non-medical professional. There's also a medical professional subscription service, which puts you up to date with some of the latest and greatest trends in the medical community. But like I said, I like to look at the Harvard Medical Newsletter. I like Johns Hopkins. I like Mayo Clinic. And I like the Cleveland Clinic. Those are all good institutions that come to medical research.
When you go to RFK Jr., you're going to a guy with no science education and a guy who used heroin addiction as a study aid. You can see him on video saying he was a bad college student until he got addicted to heroin, which I think he was for close to a decade, that allowed him to calm down and study. So
one last question before we get ready to wrap up and everything. We got about 5 minutes ago, but this is another legal question for you, Nick. the Menendez brothers, are they going to get any sort of break in this retrial? And they've already served a massive sentence for the crimes that they committed, but are they going to get any sort of break in the near future, or are they just going to have to complete their sentence?
So the DA will not give them a new trial. However, they're meeting to look at the sentencing in the original trial, and that's their shot. They've been in prison for what, 30 years now?
Like 30, 35 years, yeah.
All right, so they may change the sentence to time served.
Right. So that's yet to be seen. But the thing is, it looks like there was a certain amount of abuse that took place, and so I think you're going to see this sentence commuted. But that would be just a guess. I don't know intimately the details of that.
So I think that the hearing, is going on right now.
Yeah,
preliminary hearing. Well, like I said, I don't know that case. I do like the case where Trump is illegally imposing tariffs on the world, because the thing is, there is substantial jurisprudence that says what he's doing, based on an international emergency act, is there's no emergency, and according to one attorney, there's no word about tariff in there. So the real question is his acts what they call ultra vires, which is basically beyond the scope of his job description. It's like me imposing tariffs. Why can't Nick Palavita go around imposing tariffs? I'm going to impose tariffs. I'm going to impose tariffs on Spain. I don't have the right to do it, but I'll do it anyway, and I'll bring my thugs in to enforce it. So this to me is going to be great theater. The other great theater that we haven't hit on, Lawyers Den, but we'll get to, is the gentleman that was taken away illegally, it looks like, from the United States, who is a U.S. citizen, incarcerated in El Salvador. And the Supreme Court said 9-0, they don't usually agree on everything, 9-0, that he needs to come back, okay? And if this really took place, did his what do they call it, the idiot lady who's his mouthpiece in Washington, D.C., did she really? Yeah, no, it's not Pam Bondi. She's the lawyer, but the person who talks to the press secretary,
Carolyn Levitt, the White House press secretary.
I don't know. One of them didn't they say he's never going to come back to the United States?
Yeah, but he's not a citizen.
Did you really say that? Is she that stupid?
Yeah, but Nick, who are you interviewing next Tuesday?
Oh, he's an attorney from he's an attorney from a libertarian group.
What lawsuit did he file?
Okay, it's called Voss. I'll send it to you guys. It's Voss versus.
Yeah, the link didn't come through, or the attachment didn't come through, and I'd like to read it.
It's actually
Lawyers Den on Tuesday night, and Nick is getting in some pretty good interviews lining up now.
And what's even more exciting about it is that right behind that, Governor Newsom filed a similar suit based on the same theory. I don't know if you saw that. So
yes, I did. I watched that last night. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you're going to see both these are going to hit pretty strong, because they have very strong, cogent arguments.
I think Newsom has a strong case.
It's the same case, by the way, Kim. It is the same case. I read both those complaints. It's the same case filed by two different groups in two different courts.
Can you send it to me? Because I didn't get to read the case itself.
What will happen is, because I've seen this before, what they'll do is they'll eventually what they call consolidate the cases when it hits the Supreme Court, because they're similar. They don't want to rule twice on the same issue. So watch, it'll be consolidated.
Quick question for Nick. So you're heavily involved in the chess community. And as Toby said, autism isn't a disorder. It's a different way of thinking, neurodivergent. So what do you think the percentage of people who are chess like prodigies, just awesome at chess, are on the spectrum or have some degree of autism?
Many.
That's probably larger than you think. One problem with the chess community, of course, it's like law, it just depends. Because remember, it depends on their rating. And what I found out the other day, that only 3% of the chess players get ELO ratings over 1,500. And I'm sitting there going, I started off with an ELO of 1798 and then went up to like 2257. So it really depends on what level you're at.
Well, say that over 1,500, it's got to be a huge percentage.
No. The top players that are over, they're like masters and grandmasters. They're weird.
So I do have a question that is more on the economical basis. What is, and maybe we can, what is the trust of $150 trillion that was established in the Title 30?
Social Security Trust Fund. Please don't tell me it's that.
No, I was just wondering, do you know what it is? Because I've been hearing about it.
It probably is the Social Security Trust Fund.
No, it's not. It has nothing to do. It's a mineral and mining trust that they're getting ready to crack open to do mining with.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Go look it up.
We're past the hour.
Yes,
okay.
we are.
All right, I'll send you the case, but I'm looking forward to the Lawyer's Den next Tuesday. I'm looking forward to following this case.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I would like to move it earlier for Nick's sake, but right now
it'll be 6 o'clock Eastern Time.
Right, 6 o'clock
I'm not
Eastern.
going to tell you what time it is.
Take care. Stay healthy so you stay wealthy.
Okay, gotta go.
Gotta go.